of a sudden I'm awakened by this nurse. And I remember her, she was tall lady. She came in and woke me up. She was like fussing at me. She was like, you can't go to sleep. You can't go to sleep while this baby is in here. So I talked about my experience of being a teen mom, but I want to get down to the nitty gritty of what I have learned as I have gotten older. Like I say, I was a teen mom. I had my child before I graduated high school. And I just want to share this information because it could prevent some things for people, or, you know, maybe it's relatable. But I just want to share this so that you all know. I'm going to share with you 3 things that I want to consider. Pay attention to your doctor. Listen to what they're talking about during your appointments. Review what was discussed with a loved one, someone that has maybe been through the labor experience, who has some type of understanding. Talk it over with a loved one. And actually, I would even encourage you to have someone come along with you so that they can hear what is being told to you and see if it resonates with them, and if they have any things that they will want to add to what they're saying, or at least support you in that way of being in the room with you when you do have your appointment. I would say this: always go to God about everything. If you're confused, if you have questions about something, I always quote Matthew 6:33. It says, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." If you are in a hospital, how many people can be in your room when you go into labor? Or how many people can come and visit you throughout the day? How often can you take your baby and let them go to the nursery? Know what you need to bring. You can always keep a bag in your car. And the 3rd thing I would say is, know that it's okay to tell them what's going on with you. If you're in pain, let them know you're in pain. If you are sleepy, let them know, "I'm sleepy. I don't feel like talking right now. Come back and talk with me later." You have the right to let them know what's going on. Don't ever shy away from that. Don't ever think that, "Oh, I don't want to keep bugging them." Nope. Keep bugging them and let them know what's going on, because at least they have to document it. They have to document it, and you should be documenting it too. They should be treating you as if you are their daughters. So if they wouldn't want someone to mistreat their daughters, they will make sure that they treated you right. So make sure that, you know, you express what is going on with you. If there's any concerns, if you have any questions. Home birth, still ask questions. Figure out what's going on, what you need to do, what's okay and what's not okay. What do you agree with, what you don't agree with. Because the hospitals, really, to be honest, I could say a whole thing about hospitals, but I digress. I just want to give you those three things to share about, like, labor and delivery. Testimony time. Imagine this: a 17-year-old who's pregnant, look young in the face, and at 18 years old, I have my son. So the day of my delivery was very interesting. I did consent to an epidural, and I was very, very tired. And the nurse kept fussing at me because she was saying I couldn't sleep on my back. But I would fall asleep, and some way, somehow, I would end up rolled up on my back. And so it wasn't like I was doing it on purpose. It was just, I guess that was the way my body would be positioned so that I had the most comfort. Because like I said, I was extremely tired. And at one point, I eventually do fall asleep. I do fall asleep, and I'm awakened by the nurse. And the doctor is coming in as well. And they're like, "Oh, the baby's heart rate is low. The heart rate is low." And so they all start coming in once. Now my family was already in the room. They told them to leave. And they're scaring me now because the doctor says out of his own mouth, oh, if we don't get this baby out, it's gonna be a goner. I'm looking like, what? So I start to cry when they put the oxygen mask on my face because I'm scared. And the nurse is like, oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And she starts talking to me. And so I calm down and I don't cry. Because basically she was telling me don't cry. So I don't. And I just remember, she reassured me and I just felt like now was not the time to cry, so I did. I remember bits and pieces, but some of the things that stood out to me was like my mom and my child's father was there, and everyone else was supposed to exit the room, but guess what? My two older sisters, they were peeking in behind the camera, like behind the curtains. It was a curtain and then the door that led out, and they were behind the curtain, and I could see them. The doctor could not, but I could see them. And they were making faces. I could see all of their facial expression. And it was just, you know how like little kids be like, they cover their mouth and they're chuckling and they're like, ew, you know, and they're doing all of that. And I'm seeing it all. And I'm in a very vulnerable position, like spread eagle, trying to push a baby. After the doctor just said that if I don't push, he's gonna be a goner. And the nurse is telling me not to cry. And I see my sisters like making faces, like disgusted faces. And I don't, it's nothing to shade them. It's nothing to say, oh, they were bad for what they did. They were young themselves. Like, I don't even think my sister had hit 20. No, let me take that back. They were young. They were young. They didn't know. And they didn't know how it was gonna affect me. But I know I was all in my head, like shame, like embarrassed, like not thinking the right things because of what I was seeing. On top of like the doctor saying what he's saying and telling me to push. I don't know how to push. I never took a birthing class. It wasn't even recommended for me. Like the breathing, I didn't know nothing about that. I didn't know nothing. All I knew was I was having a baby and this baby was coming. I mean, I was on full display. And I felt a couple of emotions. Embarrassed, ashamed, humiliated, really. And just flat out vulnerable. And at one point, my son's father, he couldn't bear to look. And so he had to sit down. So he couldn't even be next to me. But finally, I gave birth to my son. He was finally there. And I just remember feeling so tired. I did not cry. I didn't cry. I didn't cry because the nurse told me not to. And I know she told me that to help with my baby so that I wouldn't be stressed and I wouldn't be upset and it make it harder on me, but I didn't even cry afterwards. I felt them, things like that. And I remember hearing my sisters say, oh, Tara, your stomach has gone down instantly. And like they kept saying things to me, trying to be nice or maybe like encourage me, but I just was out of it. I was tired and I just was in a daze. And everybody did eventually leave. And what was so interesting was that I had just given birth. And my oldest was leaving. She was leaving out. And she told everyone she was leaving, and my mom followed behind her. And I'm looking at her like, where are you going? I just gave birth. And my mom, she left. She ended up leaving with my oldest sister. And I I didn't have the words for it, nor did I ask her to stay. I just kind of looked like, oh, this is, you're leaving. Like, I just had a baby. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be a mom. I don't know what this is. And I was just really tired. So my mom ended up leaving, and I know I'm tired, and they clean up the baby, they put him in the crib, and they tell me like, hey, this baby's gonna be here, you know, you can rest. My child's father agrees. He says, hey, I'm gonna stay up and I'll watch the baby while you go to sleep. I say, okay. Right? I go to sleep. Mind you, I'm still high on the medicine. I had an epidural. I mean, I'm high on the medicine. I go to sleep, and I'm in a deep sleep because I just gave birth. And all of a sudden, I'm awakened by this nurse. And I remember her, she was tall lady. She came in and woke me up. She was like fussing at me. She was like, you can't go to sleep. You can't go to sleep while this baby is in here. You can't be sleeping that hard with your baby. This is your baby. You can't hear him crying. And my child had been crying, and I hadn't heard him because I was secure that the dad was going to take care of him, and I was exhausted. I was tired. And I just remember feeling that shame again, because I'm like, dang, I should be a mom and I should be able to hear my child's cry. But I'm be honest with you, my son cried. He cried low. He had a very like small cry. Like, he did not cry at all. Like, you could barely hear him for like a long time. Like, you had to be up close to him to see him to know like, oh, he was crying. But you know, I digress on that. But I remember like feeling bad, and then I was looking. I said, well, my son father said he'll watch. She's like, no, you're the mom. You need to be up and watching him. And I'm like, what in the world? I'm tired. I just was drugged up. I just had a baby. And I don't know. I was lost for words. I didn't know how to combat that, because it was true. I am a mom. I did just have a child. I mean, I should be in tune with my child and know that the child is crying. However, I did not. There was a lot of disconnect there anyway. And I looked at their dad. I'm like, and he over there asleep. I'm looking at him like, didn't you tell me you was gonna watch your child? Didn't you say you was gonna watch your son? Oh, I was tired. Right, I was too. I just pushed him out. And later on I found out that we could have took him to the nursery. So that's what I started doing. I started sending him to the nursery because I was tired. But I do know that I had poor treatment. The nurses were not the nicest. I maybe had one or two nurses that were nice. Even when it was time for us to go home, I remember the nurse was talking to me, and she was speaking to me as if I was, what's the word for it? Incompetent. She literally was talking to me as if I was a 5-year-old. And she was giving me steps of how to take my baby down and put the baby in a car seat and put the baby in and what was gonna happen. And so she was talking to me, and I'm like looking at her like, I'm looking around because my son's father is there and then his aunt is there. She's giving us a ride, and I'm like, and I'm just kind of looking like, did I miss something? But it was because of my age. And nobody advocated for me. Nobody was, like, I remember his aunt asked her a question, and she tried to talk to her the same way. And his aunt like was like, you don't gotta talk to me like that. Or she was just like, okay, I get it. But it was just, in that moment, it was just like, there were so many moments that I felt like less than, incompetent, just not understood. And they were like so harsh towards me in a very vulnerable time of giving birth. And so I've dealt with that. I dealt with that for a really long time, and I finally have released it. But that's why I'm putting out this video, because I need people, I need the young girls, I need the mothers, the new mothers to understand and know, like, know your rights, know what's okay and what's not okay, know what you can, how to advocate for yourself, and have people around you, family members, friends, any loved one around you to come and support you and back you up. That's really all I have to say at this moment. But yeah, that is my labor and delivery story. Hope it blesses someone. Bye.